The slap echoes before I even feel it. The sound ricochets through the ballroom like a pistol crack, slicing through the orchestral hush and the faint clinking of glasses. For a moment, no one breathes. My cheek stings, the warmth spreading outward, but I stay very still. My daughter-in-law stands on the ballroom stage, her hand still raised, fingers trembling slightly, as if even she can't believe what she's done. Her other hand clutches the microphone, its cord coiled at her feet like a black snake. The expression on her face is a strange fusion of triumph and something close to tears. 200 guests sit frozen in their gilt chairs, their eyes darting between us, between the spectacle and the horror of realizing it's not theater. My son Dan, my only son, stands beside her. He's grinning. That's what makes it unbearable. He grins like this was rehearsed, like every word and movement had been storyboarded months ago, and now the big scene is finally being performed for their audience. "Give me the keys," Alina says into the mic. Her voice cracks, but it's a controlled crack, one that draws sympathy. "Your apartment, our future, just give them to us." She's shaking, but her mascara doesn't run. She made sure of that. She chose waterproof. I don't move. The keyring in my pocket weighs nothing, but my hand refuses to rise. The metal presses lightly against my thigh like a dare. She slaps me again, harder. The echo bounces off the chandeliers, a percussive note that makes a few guests flinch. A waiter by the door drops a tray of empty flutes. The shatter punctuates her anger. "You selfish old man," she hisses. The microphone catches every syllable, amplifies her venom. "We need that place. You don't even use half of it." I look at Dan, my son, 27 years old, clean-shaven, ambitious, wearing a tailored suit I probably paid for. He won't meet my eyes. His jaw tightens, but his smirk doesn't falter. He stands there like a man watching a performance he's proud to have directed. His sister, Irina, is in the front row. She's filming everything with her phone held steady, her face blank as fresh paint, her gaze cold and mechanical. No one in this family moves without a motive. "No," I say. The word is small but heavy. It drops into the silence and sinks. Alina's face crumples, not in surprise but in preparation. She's been waiting for that word, maybe even counting on it. Her features fold into a performance of heartbreak so precise it borders on artistry. Her lower lip trembles at the perfect rhythm. Her eyes glisten under the stage lights. Around us, the crowd murmurs, confused, scandalized, moved. Someone's aunt sniffles. Someone else mutters a prayer. The orchestra conductor, frozen mid-motion, lowers his baton as though the air itself has changed. I reach into my jacket and pull out my phone. I dial one number. No one dares speak. The ringtone is soft, absurdly ordinary against the tension. The ballroom doors open with a slow creak that seems to drag against every nerve in the room. A man in a grey suit walks in. His shoes click against the marble, steady and deliberate. The air shifts. The silence becomes something deeper, a silence that holds its breath. 3 women near the back stand up. One covers her mouth. Another whispers something I can't catch. A man near the bar drops his champagne glass, the sharp tinkle scattering like a confession. Even the chandeliers seem to hum differently. The man keeps walking. He's in his 60s, weathered but upright, with kind eyes that have seen too much. There's a humility in his posture, but something iron underneath. When he reaches the stage, he looks at Alina and smiles. A small, quiet, devastating smile. "Dotsu," he says softly. "Daughter." Alina goes rigid. The microphone slips from her hand, letting out a squeal of feedback before settling into silence. She doesn't speak. Her hand finds Dan's sleeve and grips so hard that the fabric bunches. He looks bewildered for the first time all evening. "Serhii?" Someone whispers from the audience, incredulous. Another voice answers, "That's her foster father. I thought he was dead." Serhii steps closer, ignoring the whispers. He lifts his arms, slow and gentle. Alina doesn't move. He hugs her anyway, wraps her in arms that once sheltered her from something worse. She stands stiff, her body a statue, while half the room weeps for reasons they don't understand. The air tastes of perfume and regret. I pick up the microphone from the floor. It's warm from her hand. My voice, when it comes, is calm. Alina, I say, should we start with your real last name, or with what you did to your last landlord? The audience inhales as one organism. A ripple of disbelief passes through them. Dan's eyes widen. Irina's recording doesn't stop. Her hand trembles, but she keeps the camera pointed. Dan lunges for the mic. I step back. Serhii doesn't move. His hand still rests on Alina's shoulder, steadying her, holding her upright. I've got another piece of news, I say into the mic. Every eye turns toward me. I can feel the room lean forward, the hunger for spectacle overpowering their discomfort. Irina lowers her phone just slightly, caught between shame and curiosity. I sold the apartment, I say. The room stirs, a rustle of disbelief. Dan's face twists. What? His voice cracks, his composure splintering. Sold it, I repeat, enunciating every letter. 3 weeks ago. Irrevocable life estate deed to a non-profit housing trust. I live there until I die. When I die, it goes to them. Not to you. Not ever. Dan's mouth opens, then closes again. His confidence drains away, replaced by a sort of stunned fury. You can't... He stops himself, searching for words that don't exist. I already promised it to my wife. We planned the renovation, the nursery, give me the money. There is no money, I say. The trust paid my debts. The rest is locked. And here's the beautiful part. I lean forward, the microphone amplifying the quiet. If any of you harass me, threaten me, or try to interfere with my occupancy, the deed has a clause. Everything accelerates. The trust takes possession immediately. You get nothing. The murmur grows into a low, uneasy buzz. Irina lowers her phone completely. For the first time tonight, uncertainty flickers across her face. Alina's tears are real now, messy, uncontrolled, cutting through the foundation she so carefully applied. Dan looks like he's been hollowed out. You're insane, he says. His voice breaks on the word. Maybe, I reply, but I'm keeping my home. For a moment, no one moves. Then Alina turns, desperate, to Serhii. He's lying, she says, clutching his arm. Tell them he's lying. Serhii's eyes are full of sorrow. He steps back, shakes his head once. I can't tell them that, Alina, he says softly, because I helped him file the paperwork. The sound that follows isn't quite an explosion, but something close. Gasps, shouts, chairs scraping. The orchestra starts packing up instruments quietly. Dan rushes the stage, fury propelling him forward. Security intercepts him halfway up the steps. The crowd fragments, voices colliding. Someone demands explanations. Someone else curses. The event has disintegrated into chaos. I hand the microphone to the band leader, who looks both terrified and relieved. I button my jacket and start walking toward the coat check. The noise fades behind me like a bad dream. A hand grips my arm before I reach the door. Serhii again. His expression is calm, almost fatherly. If you're going to war with them, he says quietly, you're going to need me. I study his face. There's history there, more than Alina ever admitted, I suspect. I glance back at the ballroom. Dan is shouting at Alina, who's trying to speak over him. Irina is on her phone, talking rapidly to someone, maybe a lawyer. Guests hover like carrion birds, waiting to see where the power shifts. Why would you help me, I ask. Because they need to learn that stealing has a cost, he says, and because Alina needs to remember where she came from. I nod. Meet me tomorrow, Seabird Park, main gate, 9 a.m. I'll be there, he says. I leave through the service exit, where the air smells of dishwater and cigarette smoke. Outside, the rain has started. It drizzles down in a fine mist, blurring the reflections of streetlights across the asphalt. The parking lot reeks of wet pavement and expensive perfume vented from the ballroom's ducts. I walk slowly, the night settling heavy around me. My car waits under a broken lamp at the far end, a lonely silhouette. Halfway there, my phone buzzes. The sound is sharp in the quiet. I check the screen. An email. No subject line. Just a single attachment. A scanned document. Power of attorney. My name. My forged signature. Granting Dan control over my utilities, my mail, my accounts. The notary stamp looks perfect. The date is yesterday. I stare at it for a long time, the rain tapping against the phone screen like impatient fingers. Then, I forward the message to my private archive, take screenshots of the metadata, store them in 3 encrypted folders, and delete nothing. Evidence without context is useless. Context takes patience. I don't call the police. Not yet. If they're forging signatures, they're planning more. If I move too early, they'll erase everything. Evidence needs to ripen, like fruit. I drive home through streets that glisten like black glass. The city feels empty, suspended in the rain. The streetlights smear across my windshield, fractured by water. My thoughts are cold and methodical. Every move from here must be deliberate. They think I'm just an old man clinging to property, too stubborn to die quietly. They have no idea who raised me, what I've survived. At home, the garage smells of oil and damp concrete. I park, lock the car twice, and take the stairs to the 4th floor. I pause outside my door, listening. Nothing. No movement. No voices. The locks are unaltered. I slide the key in, turn it, and step inside. Everything is as I left it. The coat still on the stand, the framed photos of my late wife still angled toward the light. Her smile seems to ask if I'm sure I know what I'm doing. I make tea, letting the kettle whistle softly, and sit at the kitchen table. The steam fogs my glasses. On the laptop, I open my documents, organize folders, label everything carefully. By 3 a.m, I've mapped the beginnings of a counterattack. Phase 1. Confirm the forgery. Find the notary's name, verify the registration number, build a timeline, cross-reference Dan's digital activity with bank access logs. Phase 2. Secure the assets they don't know about. Small bonds, pension reserves, the safety deposit key taped beneath the drawer of my desk. Phase 3. Expose them, not to destroy, but to disarm. They feed on manipulation. Starve them of leverage. The tea goes cold beside me. Rain keeps ticking against the windows, steady as a clock. Somewhere between strategy and exhaustion, I realize I'm no longer angry, just focused. They wanted to make me irrelevant. Instead, they've given me purpose. By dawn, I've written Serhii's name at the top of a clean page. Below it, one word: Ali. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? While you're here, hit the hype button, don't forget to subscribe, and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? Seabird Park smells like rust and popcorn, even when it's closed. I arrive at dawn before the gulls wake up and find Hanat smoking by the employee gate. He's been night manager here for 20 years. We worked together back when I rigged safety cables for the Thunderbolt coaster. He knows every tunnel, every catwalk, every camera blind spot in this aging amusement park. You look like hell, he says. I need to borrow your eyes. He flicks the cigarette into a puddle. For what? My kids are trying to steal my apartment. I need somewhere to think. Schnat studies me, then jerks his head toward the gate. Come on. Park's dead until the season opener next week. We walk through the midway. The rides loom in the grey light like sleeping giants. Paint peels from the carousel horses. The Ferris wheel creaks in the wind. Hanat unlocks the service door behind the funhouse, and we climb the maintenance stairs. The catwalks stretch above the old wooden coaster. From up here, you can see the whole park, the boardwalk, the beach, the employee lots, the maze of storage sheds and generator housings behind the games booths. What do you need? Chnat asks. A place to meet someone. Private. No cameras. He points to the ghost train bay at the far end. Back there. The control room's been offline for 2 years. No power, no surveillance. I'm the only one with a key. Perfect. We walk the catwalk in silence. Chnat stops halfway across and looks down at the coaster rails. You really selling your place? Sold it. To a trust. But I can live there forever as long as no one proves I'm being harassed. So you need them to harass you? I need them to try, and fail, and lose everything trying. Hanat nods slowly. You always were mean when you had to be. I learned from carnies. He laughs, sharp and short. When do I meet your friend? 9. His name is Serhii. Good man. Quiet. I'll leave the back gate open. We're descending the catwalk when Hanat freezes. He grabs my shoulder and points. 2 men stand by the maintenance gate below. One is my son-in-law Taras, compact and nervous in a grey suit. The other is Roman Bliznyuk, the property flipper who's been whispering poison in Dan's ear for months. They're arguing. Taras gestures at the park entrance. Roman shakes his head and checks his phone. Friends of yours? Chnat asks. Vultures. You want me to run them off? No, I want to know what they're doing here. We stay on the catwalk and watch. After 5 minutes, Roman points toward the employee lot, and they walk that way. I memorize Roman's SUV, black, oversized vanity plate that reads capitalize. I'll be back in an hour, I tell Hanat. Not today. I descend through the access ladder and trail them through the service alleys. The park is a maze if you don't know it, but I do. I spent 3 years crawling through these tunnels, checking cables, replacing bolts, making sure nobody died on the Thunderbolt. Roman and Taras cut through the old arcade building. I take the parallel maintenance corridor, moving fast and quiet. The corridor dead ends at a shuttered ice cream stand. I can hear them on the other side of the wall. He's not going to just give it up, Taras says. He will when he realizes he's alone. Alina's already got the public sympathy. Irina's working the legal angle. Dan's the face. Your job is to make sure the paperwork sticks. The power of attorney won't hold. He'll challenge it. Then we move to incompetence. Get him declared unfit. It's not hard. Old man living alone, no family support, erratic behavior at the wedding. That's not erratic. That's revenge. Call it what you want. We just need a judge to sign off. They move away. I let them get ahead, then follow at a distance. They're heading toward the parking lot, and I need to get ahead of them. I cut through the ghost train bay, push through the emergency exit, and sprint to my car. By the time they reach Roman's SUV, I'm parked 3 rows over with my phone out. I film them getting in. I film the license plate. Then I pull a small Bluetooth tracker from my glove box, something I bought for $20 at an electronics store, and wait. Roman starts the engine. The SUV rolls toward the exit. I get out, jog up behind them at the stop sign, and slap the tracker under the rear bumper while pretending to tie my shoe. Roman pulls away. My phone pings with the tracker's signal. I head back to the employee gate. Serhii is waiting. Serhii looks older in daylight. The grey in his hair is closer to white at the temples, and the laugh lines around his eyes carve into his face like well-worn paths. His suit is clean but lived in, the fabric softened by decades of washing and mending, and his hands shake just enough when he pulls a pack of cigarettes from his breast pocket and fumbles to light one. He holds the cigarette like a ritual, rolling it between his fingers, as if its burn could steady memories. Thank you for coming, I say, though it feels like an inadequate thank you for someone who has walked across years to stand on my side. I want to help Alina, he says, voice rough from disuse and from things the world had made him swallow. This is the only way I know how. We walk to the ghost train bay under cloud-filtered light. The park is mostly empty this weekday morning. Maintenance crews tuck into garages. A lone father herds a stroller past the closed ticket booth. Schnat, the ride mechanic, unlocks the control room with a key that jingles like a chorus of tiny, obedient bells. He leaves us to our privacy without a question. The control room smells of ozone and rubber and the faint sour of old popcorn. Dust coats every surface. A moth clings to the edge of a faded poster, and a broken mannequin slumps in the corner, sun-bleached hair a tangle over one shoulder. The ride's monitors blink, guardians of a childhood that never came back. I lay out my file across the workbench with a care that borders on ceremony. The forged power of attorney sits first, its ink glinting under the fluorescent light like a lie that has learned to shimmer. Beside it, screenshots of threatening texts from Dan, each time-stamped and brittle with fury, show a son I thought I knew only in fragments. A printed copy of the life estate deed rests in the center, thick paper, legal font, irrevocable. And finally, a recording I made of Roman's SUV meeting, crackled audio of men speaking low, the scrape of a chair, the thunk of a hollow claim being made real. Serhii takes each piece as though taking hold of a living thing. He flips through pages like a man reconciling faces he had once loved with the evidence on the paper. When he slides the last document back into the file, he pulls a thin folder from his jacket and places it beside mine with a soft thunk. "This is what I have on Alina," he says. The folder contains the artifacts of a polished life assembled by other people's expectations, contracts with glossy headers and morally ambiguous clauses, sponsor agreements written in euphemistic language that makes exploitation sound like partnership, appearance fees that evaporated into management pockets, ghost-written testimonials signed by names that never touched the draft. The signature blocks look like someone else held the pen. One document sits on top of the stack, like a splintered tooth. A volunteer ambassador clause. Small print requiring 40 unpaid hours a month in exchange for brand visibility and the chance to be selected for higher-tier gigs. The company that demanded it folded when a scandal hit their CEO. Their brand dissolved, but the clause lived on like a trap. It tied Alina to unpaid labor cloaked as charity, poverty dressed in the lace of philanthropy. She performed for optics until she had no bridges left to burn. "She left me when the money came," Serhii says, and the words are soft as though they might break brittle things. "She was 19. I was sick. She thought she had to survive. I don't blame her for that. But she burned every bridge to get there." "Does she know you kept these?" I ask. "She knows," he answers. "That's why she hasn't spoken to me in 5 years." The detail pins me. It explains the anger that has always lit her eyes when Dan pats her hand in public, the brittle loyalty she feels toward people who gave her the facade of security. It means the girl who once hid from police lights and called him Dotsu is not wholly gone. She is a person with compromises, and Serhii kept a ledger of them, like a man afraid of losing everything again. I photograph every page with methodical hands, strobe of synthetic light clicking against the glassy sheen of ink. Each image is archived, time-stamped, and encrypted. Then I hand the folder back to Serhii. "I'm going to use this," I say. The sentence hangs between us like a loaded instrument. "It will hurt her." "I know," he replies simply. There's not the malice I expected. Instead, a hard kindness, as though he believes pain is sometimes the only language that returns people to themselves. "You're still sure?" I ask, testing my own resolve. He nods. His throat works. She needs to understand that running from the past doesn't erase it. Maybe this will teach her. My phone buzzes against my hip. The tracker on Roman's SUV is pinging at a location I recognize, with the ease of a landmark etched into my muscle memory, the high-rise construction site near the riverfront. The place is a skeleton of steel and concrete, cranes like the arms of sleeping giants. People move on platforms above the mud, like ants on a glass world. The construction company is halfway through a rooftop terrace project, perfect for a glossy photo shoot for Alina's agency, perfect for staging the kind of event that draws in the city's social media weather. They're moving fast, I say. So should we, Serhii replies, flicking ash into an empty coffee can. He has the patience of a man who knows how long it takes for a plan to set in place, but his eyes burn with a readiness that mirrors my own. For the next 2 days, I build files like a mason lays bricks. Public records are a slow, deliberate animal. They need coaxing. I file requests, submit forms, harvest documents with the dry joy of a hunter who knows the land. Roman's business permits come through punctually enough. The city's open data portal is honest in its bureaucracy. I pull corporate registrations for his shell LLCs. Each is a paper onion, layers upon layers that conceal the real onion underneath. I cross-reference property sales against tax liens and find a series of transfers that suggest a paper trail designed to keep anyone at arm's length. Taras is easier. He works for a municipal accountancy firm with a public ethics line that takes anonymous tips seriously. I file a complaint, undisclosed personal relationships affecting professional judgment, attaching screenshots of messages he sent to Roman, date-stamped, geotagged, intimate, in ways that betray professional lines. I phrase it as questions rather than accusations. Bureaucrats love questions. Irina proves to be the most elusive. She is a curator of self, an architect of a persona optimized for attention and advantage. Her social media is a carefully edited portfolio of curated happiness. Her finances are oblique, dotted with shell accounts and privacy settings. But she is not flawless. In the aftermath of the wedding, drunk on the momentum of spectacle, she posted a video calling me an abuser. She tagged my name, my workplace, my building. The video is short and sharp, a cinematic cut designed to trigger outrage. The post detonates in our community. The usual predators gather, moral outrage, the rent-seekers of social currency. Within 48 hours, my office receives a formal complaint from a concerned citizen asking for an investigation into my fitness as a municipal inspector. The complaint is polite but insistent, the kind of bureaucratic nudge that could rip away my livelihood for the sin of being the subject of social media. I write a rebuttal. Legalese is a kind of diplomacy, and I speak it with reasonable fluency. My response includes the life estate deed, the clause protecting my occupancy, screenshots of Dan's texts that read like the threats of a man with more bravado than conscience, and a timeline that makes the coordination obvious. The complaint came 2 days after the wedding. Dan and Irina's post originated from the same IP cluster. I request delays, demand audits. I do not accuse, only show. Evidence, not theatrics. My boss reads the packet and calls me into his office. He is a practical man who smells trouble from a long way off. "This is a mess, Alex," he says, the kind of careful kindness that has kept me employed through the years. "It's a targeted campaign, sir," I tell him. "I believe you, but we have to respond to the complainant. Take a week off, paid. Let this cool down." I take the week. It feels like both a reprieve and an exile. The world outside hums busily. In the small apartment, silence becomes a tool. I spend the days building more than defenses. I create contingencies, physical and legal. I reopen a safety deposit box I'd sealed away years ago, the one with the key tucked under the false bottom of an old shoebox in the closet. Inside, the small liquid assets turned into a slow leak for emergencies, bonds, a letter from an attorney I'd used in my wife's estate planning, a photocopy of the original title that I'd tucked away before the trust transaction for the deed closed. I put everything into order. On Thursday, a text from Dan slides across my screen. "Coffee tomorrow? We need to talk." The phrasing is simple, deceptively mundane. The address he sends is not a cafe at all, but a notary's office. the kind of neutral, sterile space where signatures are notarized and futures are altered with ink. He is trying to stage a parlay. Or a trap. I go anyway. The notary's building sits on a narrow side street behind a row of shuttered shops. Inside, the waiting room smells of lemon cleaner and bureaucracy. The receptionist looks at me with the professional calm of someone who has seen more than their share of family disputes and will not be surprised by another. The notary, blonde, angular, efficient, has a ring on her finger that betrays nothing about the kind of compromises she makes for living. Dan is already there when I enter. He's halfway between contrition and entitlement, wearing the same expression he wore at the reception, and he stands when I come in like a man playing a role he has practiced in front of the mirror. He gestures toward a seat. "Dad," he says. The word is flat. "Dan," I reply. The security of the room gives me a clarity I didn't expect. There are papers on the notary's desk, blue seals and stamps. The sunlight through the blinds slices the room into bars. "I didn't want to embarrass you at the wedding," he begins, a practiced apology that smells of rehearsed guilt. "We can work this out. There are ways to—" "You forged a notary stamp," I say, and the accusation lands with the heaviness of an anchor. "You forged my signature. You filed something yesterday." He blinks, and for a heartbeat, I see a boy behind his hardened face. "You don't understand," he says. Alina is not an entitlement," I cut in. "She's a person who has her past. You don't get to mortgage kindness to a social climb." He leans forward, and for once he is not grandiose but pleading. "You don't get it. We were going to give you support. We weren't going to leave you. We only wanted to make sure you were taken care of." "I am taken care of," I tell him. "By myself. By choices that don't involve stealing from me." The notary watches us with a clinical neutrality, a mediator whose job is to ensure that signatures are free and informed. Her hand hovers near a stamp. The office feels too small for everything it's trying to hold. The weight of a family collapsing, the legal instruments that move like quiet predators. Outside, a woman with a stroller passes by, oblivious to the small, enormous decisions made in neutral rooms. Dan's voice softens and hardens in the same breath. "You don't have to make this dramatic. We can sign new documents. We can—" "No." I say it like a final verdict. "I will not return what I did not promise. I sold the apartment. To a trust. Irrevocable." He makes a noise that is half laugh, half sob. "You can't. You signed something. There are ways." "Then show me proof," I demand. "Not rumor. Not a staged petition. Proof. And if you're using legal channels, do it legitimately. Otherwise, you are forging notaries and power of attorneys like cheap theatre." The notary clears her throat, a small sound that feels like a bell. "Mr. Kovalenko, we cannot discuss case details that involve potential forgery here without counsel. If you have evidence, we would recommend—" "Let the record speak," Dan says, furious at being shut down. He stands abruptly, chair shrieking on the linoleum. "This is going to get ugly." "I'm counting on it." My voice is steady. I swallow the urge to tell him everything I know. The construction permits, Roman's paper trail, the complaint against Taras, Irina's viral post and the IP logs. The notary's lips thin. She knows more than she says. Dan leaves with a last look that manages both menace and hurt. He closes the door behind him with a soft click that echoes like a silence. The notary watches him disappear down the street, then turns to me, offering the smallest of professional sympathies. "You should get an attorney," she says, wandering into the obvious. "I have one," I reply, though the word is a loose thing in my mouth, more a plan than a person right now. But first I needed to see him. Outside, the sunlight has flared into an ordinary day that has the audacity to be normal. I stand on the curb a long time, feeling the city settle around me. The rain earlier in the week left the streets smelled like summer and mud. Now the air tastes metallic, as though the atmosphere itself is bracing. When I get home, my inbox has filled with messages. A sympathetic note from Serhii, a terse legal query from my attorney, a forwarded copy of a newly filed lien in Roman's name that looks suspiciously like the beginning of a smear campaign. In the quiet of my apartment, I organize the papers like a surgeon, evidence in stacks, avenues of attack mapped in bullet points, contingencies for the contingency plans. I make lists, and as I cross one off, another emerges. I call Serhii and tell him what happened. He listens, and the cigarette smoke at his end of the line sounds like a wire pulled tight. "Meet me at the river," he says finally. "Tonight, same place. Come early, bring the files." I hang up. The day bleeds into evening. I walk to the river as if it were a confessional. The cranes above the construction site cut stark shadows across the water, and the high-rise glitters like an unfinished promise. The city hums. Far across the river, lights begin to wink alive in apartments full of strangers living their own dramas. At 9, Serhii is there, waiting under the lamplight, his outline a black, etching against the water. He has a small satchel with him. Inside, a camera with a long lens, a handful of printed photographs, and another folder. New pages I hadn't seen. He places it gently beside my open file. "These are going to hurt," he says, voice low. Not to punish, but to strip away the performative life she's wrapped herself in. We pore over the documents until the river darkens to ink, and the street lamps throw long, lonely light. We draw up plans like conspirators, a measured release of information to the right people, an anonymous tip to an investigative reporter who likes corruption, a timeline of publicly verifiable facts that will make it impossible for them to recast my resistance as mere stubbornness. We map out how to respond if they escalate. If the forged notary leads to bank withdrawals, we have a freeze plan. If they file another complaint at my office, we have subpoenas ready. At the center of it all is Alina. Her past, her choices, the person she might still become if stripped of the armor of a false celebrity. I do not relish the thought of hurting her. I steel myself with the thought that sometimes a mirror is a kind violence. I remind myself that these are not actions for revenge, but for survival, the safety of my home and the clarity of my name. When the night finally lets us go, I leave with a new ledger of moves. The city is quiet, and for the first time since the wedding, I feel something like control. Not victory, control. It tastes like the metal of a key. It tastes like the right to decide my own end. Tomorrow will be another set of small wars. Tomorrow, Roman's photo shoot will draw the influencers. Tomorrow, Taras might take his name off a sign. Tomorrow, Irina may edit a story and wonder why it doesn't have the same sheen. But tonight, under the river lights and with Serhii's pile of truths folded into my satchel, I finally sleep. The apartment is dark, but it is mine. The deed guarantees it. The trust stands like a slow-moving guardian in the wings. And somewhere, I know, the family plots and schemes continue to twitch like a net being woven. I am ready to cut at the right places. The notary's waiting room smells like printed paper and desperation. Dan sits in the corner, scrolling his phone. He doesn't look up when I enter. "You came," he says. "You asked. I thought maybe we could fix this, work something out." I sit across from him. "What did you have in mind?" "You sign the apartment over to me and Alina. We'll let you stay as long as you want. No rent, we just need the deed." "The deed is gone." "Then sign a new one. The notary's ready." "To do what? Forge a transfer from a trust I don't control." Dan's jaw tightens. "Stop playing games. You didn't really sell it. You're just punishing us for the wedding." I pull out my folder. Inside is the recorded deed, the trust agreement, and the harassment clause. I slide them across the table. "Read," I say. Dan skims the first page, then the second. His face goes pale. "This is real. Notarized. Filed. Irrevocable. You're insane. I'm protected." The notary steps out from his office, middle-aged, nervous, holding a clipboard. Are we ready to proceed? Dan looks at him, then at me. Tell him you made a mistake. Tell him you were coerced. I wasn't. Then we'll prove you're incompetent. I stand. Try it. Every text you send, every lie Irina posts, every piece of forged paperwork your friends draft, it all feeds the harassment file. And when the trust lawyers present it to a judge, you lose everything. Dan surges to his feet. You spiteful piece of... Careful, the notary's listening. Dan spins and storms out. The notary watches him go, then turns to me. I'm sorry about that. Don't be, he'll be sorrier. I leave through the side exit. My phone buzzes before I reach the street. A courier steps in front of me and shoves an envelope into my hands. Legal notice for Alexei Korol, sign here. I sign and open it on the sidewalk. Petition for emergency guardianship and competency evaluation. Filed by Irina Korol on behalf of her father, citing erratic behavior, unsafe living conditions, and suspected cognitive decline. The hearing is in 6 days. I call Serhii. Serhii meets me at a cafe near the courthouse. I show him the petition. He reads it twice, slowly, then sets it down and looks at me. Can they win? He asks. If I don't prepare, yes. If I do, no. What do you need? A cognitive evaluation from a licensed psychologist. Clean bill of health. I've already scheduled it for tomorrow. And the rest? Evidence that I'm stable, solvent, and targeted. I have the texts, the forged power of attorney, and the video from the wedding. I need one more thing. What? Taras's phone. Serhii frowns. That's harder. He'll be at the high-rise site next week. Alina's agency booked a shoot there. He'll be with her. How do you know? Because Roman's tracker put his SUV there twice this week, and because Taras doesn't let Alina work alone since I showed up at the wedding. Serhii leans back. You're planning something. A controlled confrontation, public, recorded. I push them into a corner, and Taras panics. People always drop things when they panic. That's dangerous. Less dangerous than letting Irina put me under a guardianship. Serhii nods slowly. When do we move? Saturday night, after the cognitive evaluation clears, before the hearing. We spend Friday planning. Chnat provides keys to the high-rise site. He knows the building, inspected it last year for code compliance, and still has access codes. He walks me through the layout. Service stairs, roof access, camera placements, exit routes. You're going to give someone a heart attack, Chnat says, only if they're guilty. Saturday morning, I sit in a psychologist's office and answer questions for 90 minutes. Memory tests, logic puzzles, emotional stability assessments. I pass everything. The psychologist writes a letter on official letterhead. Alexei Korol shows no signs of cognitive impairment or mental instability. I get it notarized and filed with the court by noon. Saturday evening, I text Alina's agency from a burner number, posing as a potential client. I confirm the shoot location and time, 8 p.m., rooftop, northwest corner. HNAT's fake profile requested the booking, a tech startup wanting skyline photos. At 7, I'm on site. The high-rise is half-finished, glass walls installed, but interiors still raw. Scaffolding clings to the south face. The roof is unfenced, just gravel and ductwork, and a 60-meter drop. I check the breaker panel in the stairwell, test the lights, verify the camera coverage. By 8, I'm in position. Alina arrives first, hauling gear with an assistant. Taras follows, hands in his pockets, scanning the roof like he expects trouble. Roman shows up 10 minutes later. Then Dan. They're all here, together. I step into the light. Evening, I say. My voice cuts through the hum of the generator and the dull hiss of wind dragging across the unfinished rooftop. The sound rolls across the open air, startling the pigeons roosting in the steel beams above. Alina drops her camera bag so quickly the clasp snaps open, a lens rolling across the concrete until it hits a bucket and spins to a stop. Taras goes rigid beside her, his clipboard trembling slightly in his hand. Roman, always the one who thinks 2 moves ahead, shifts his weight and lets one hand drift toward his jacket pocket before freezing mid-motion. He realizes I've seen it. He knows the bluff won't work. Dan, though, just stares at me. His face looks thinner than it did a week ago. Sleepless, sunken in the cheeks. "What are you doing here?" he demands, as if the question could still make sense of the moment. "I work here," I say, letting the words fall easily. "Or I did. I inspected this building last year, still have the access codes." I raise the badge clipped to my belt so they can see the reflection of my photo in the red construction light. My presence is legal, official, and most importantly, inconvenient for them. "This is a private shoot," Alina says, and though her voice shakes, the tone tries for authority. "You need to leave." "In a minute," I reply, stepping closer to the railing. The city spreads beneath us in a grid of sodium orange and cold blue, cranes standing like sentinels in the distance. "First, I want to talk about the hearing." That makes them all go still. The word lands heavy, a reminder that their secret isn't secret anymore. Irina's not here. Her absence feels like the one smart move among them. But I don't need her. These 4 are enough. They're the machinery that turns her plans. "There's no hearing," Taras says too quickly. "That's sealed." His voice is flat, rehearsed, the tone of someone who's been told what to say and believes if he repeats it fast enough, it might become true. "Sealed?" I repeat, smiling. "You filed it in open court, public record." I pull out my phone and swipe to the screenshot of the docket, the grainy text glowing under the rooftop lights. I hold it up so they can see. "Competency evaluation, emergency guardianship, filed Thursday morning." Irina's name is right there as petitioner. You should really be more careful with your digital signatures. Roman steps forward then, his boots scraping against gravel. "You need to go," he says, low and measured, the kind of voice that once talked investors out of lawsuits. He's trying to reclaim control of the scene, to make me the intruder instead of the man they're trying to erase. "Or what?" I ask. My gaze drifts past him, to the unfinished ledge that drops 30 stories to the riverfront street below. "You'll push me?" I look back, let the pause hang. "Be careful. This site failed 2 safety inspections. No railings, no barriers. 1 slip, and someone's going to die." Dan's voice spikes. "Are you threatening us?" He takes a half step forward, fist tightening like he might do something impulsive. "I'm warning you," I say, and there's a quiet finality to it. "This is a hazardous location. You should leave." I walk toward the breaker panel near the stairwell, the metal door streaked with rust. Taras moves to intercept, panic in his eyes, but I sidestep him easily and flip the test switch. The rooftop floods die instantly, plunging the world into darkness. Only the city lights below and the blinking red of the crane beacons give shape to the silhouettes around me. For 3 long seconds, no one breathes. Alina's voice cuts through it. "What the hell?" she shouts, somewhere between fury and fear. "Safety test," I reply, turning the main lights back on with deliberate slowness. "Standard procedure. See? Everything works." "You're welcome." Roman pulls out his phone. "I'm calling security," he says, his composure cracking at the edges. "Good," I answer. "I want witnesses." I start walking toward the service stairs. Taras and Dan follow automatically, drawn by their need to control, to make sure I don't touch anything that might incriminate them. Roman hesitates, glancing toward Alina, then comes to. She stays behind, fussing with her camera bag, her hands shaking as she raises her phone and begins recording. Her instinct for optics never sleeps. Even cornered, she's thinking of narrative. Halfway to the stairwell, I stop and turn. The air between us hums with the tension of 4 people who don't know whether to shout or strike. "Here's what's going to happen," I say. loud enough for Alina's camera to pick up every word. The hearing is in 4 days. I'll be there, with a clean cognitive evaluation, a notarized deed, and evidence of your harassment. The judge will dismiss Irina's petition before lunch. Then I'll file restraining orders against all of you. Taras tries for his bureaucratic calm again. You can't do that. Watch me, I say. Dan lunges forward before Taras can stop him. I step aside easily, years of walking construction scaffolds making me steady where he isn't. He stumbles, catches himself on the stairwell railing with a curse. Taras grabs his arm and pulls him back, muttering under his breath, Don't. Not here. Roman's phone rings. The sound slices through the heavy air like a blade. He glances at the screen, then turns away to answer. I watch him through the glass door, his back rigid, his voice low. After a few seconds, his face drains of color. He ends the call and returns, eyes sharp. We need to leave. Now, he says. Dan looks confused, still red-faced and breathing hard. Why? Because he's recording this. Roman's voice shakes slightly now. He points at my jacket pocket, where the edge of my phone is just visible. And because security is already here. Right on cue, the elevator doors at the far end of the roof slide open with a chime. 2 guards step out, their reflective vests catching the rooftop floodlights. I recognize one immediately, an older man named Petro, who'd accompanied me during last year's inspection. He pauses when he sees me, recognition flickering in his expression. Gentlemen, I say, straightening. Thanks for coming. I was just explaining the safety violations on this site. No railings, no after-hours permits, and no liability waivers for these guests. The senior guard looks at Alina, who's still clutching her phone like a talisman. You have authorization to be here, ma'am. We booked it, she says automatically, voice cracking. With who? He asks. The silence that follows is perfect, the kind of silence that seals fates. That's what I thought, the guard says finally. Everyone off the roof, now. They begin to file toward the elevator, slow and reluctant. Roman's jaw tightens as he passes me. He stops just long enough to speak under his breath. This isn't over, he says. It is for you, I reply, meeting his eyes. There's no malice, just certainty. He knows I've already taken control of the narrative he thought he owned. As the elevator doors close behind them, I catch a flicker of movement, Taras patting his pockets, realization dawning too late. His phone is gone. I wait until the hum of the elevator fades, then scan the rooftop. The wind has picked up, carrying the distant sound of sirens from the street below. Near the ventilation ductwork, something glints. I crouch and find the phone wedged between a pipe and a stack of insulation panels. The screen is cracked, spiderwebbing across a photo of Taras's wife and child. But it's unlocked. He must have been in a hurry. I scroll through the message thread labeled simply D+I. The screen's backlight throws their secrets into the open, text between Taras, Dan, and Irina. Plans, coordination, arguments over timing. There are drafts of the guardianship petition, word-for-word copies of sentences I've already seen in the court file. Discussions about how to document erratic behavior, how to stage concern for my well-being. And then, buried near the bottom, the one line that turns everything to iron in my chest. We need him declared incompetent before he files the harassment claim. Once he's under guardianship, we can contest the deed. That's the play. That's the entire architecture of their scheme. Make me legally helpless before I can fight back. Every insult, every smear, every maneuver, since the wedding fits perfectly into the timeline. I photograph everything, every screen, every message. The phone vibrates once as I finish, the battery at 3%. I let it die on its own, then leave it on the security desk downstairs with a note. Found on roof. No signature. The guards don't ask questions. They're used to silence and paperwork. Petra nods to me as I pass, a faint look of understanding in his eyes. He's been in this job long enough to recognize when someone is fighting not for revenge, but for survival. Outside, the air is colder than before, the kind of sharp that keeps you alert. I walk through the half-lit construction yard, past idle cranes and the scent of wet concrete, and reach my car parked in the shadow of a supply container. My hands shake slightly as I start the engine, not from fear, but from the sudden release of adrenaline. The city lights flicker on the windshield as I pull out onto the empty road. At a red light, I forward the photos to my lawyer, attaching a short note. Found additional evidence of coordinated fraud. Terrace's phone. Guardianship plot confirmed. We'll discuss in person. The files upload slowly, bar by bar, until the phone vibrates with confirmation. By the time I reach home, it's after midnight. The apartment feels smaller than usual, walls pulsing faintly with the sound of passing traffic. I set the phone on the counter and pour myself a glass of water, watching the condensation trail down the side like the night bleeding away. My reflection in the window looks older than it did a week ago, tired but steady. For the first time since this began, I can see the shape of the endgame. They'll scramble now. Taras will report the phone stolen. Irina will deny authorship. Dan will panic and overplay his hand. Alina will cry in public, frame herself as collateral damage. And Roman, ever the tactician, will try to negotiate a settlement, to turn this from crime into misunderstanding. But the damage is done. The evidence is clean, time-stamped, beyond their reach. On my desk, the life estate deed sits under a stack of folders. The trust seal gleams faintly in the lamplight. My wife's photograph watches from beside it, her smile steady, patient, amused at my belated defiance. I take the deed in hand and trace the embossed lettering with my thumb, feeling the texture of permanence. Outside, sirens wail again, fading toward the river. I imagine them passing the construction site, where the lights still burn over an empty rooftop. Maybe Alina's gear is still scattered there, camera lenses glinting like broken promises. Maybe the city will forget the scene by morning. But I won't. That rooftop was the turning point. That's where the truth stopped hiding. I sit down, open my notebook, and begin to write. Chronology, evidence chain, witness list. The pen scratches steadily, filling pages with calm precision. By the time I finish, dawn has begun to tint the horizon a dull grey. I close the notebook, set it beside the phone, and whisper to the empty room, "Let them come." The hearing is Tuesday at 10 a.m. I arrive early with my file. The cognitive evaluation, the deed, the harassment documentation, and printouts of Taras's messages. Irina sits on the plaintiff's side, with a lawyer I don't recognize. Dan and Alina are in the gallery. Taras is absent. The judge is a tired-looking woman in her 50s. She reads Irina's petition, then my response. "Mr. Corral, you're representing yourself." "Yes, Your Honor." "You understand you have the right to an attorney?" "I do. I chose not to retain one." She nods and turns to Irina's lawyer. "Counsel, your petition cites erratic behavior and unsafe living conditions. What evidence do you have?" The lawyer stands. "Your Honor, the petitioner will testify to her father's recent actions, including public confrontations, threats against family members, and statements indicating paranoia." "And the unsafe living conditions?" "We have photos of the apartment showing hoarding behaviors and poor hygiene." I raise my hand. "Objection, Your Honor. I'd like to see those photos." The judge waves me up. I approach the bench. The lawyer hands me a folder. Inside are photos of someone's apartment, not mine. The furniture's wrong, the layout's different, even the windows don't match. "Your Honor, these aren't my apartment, this is fraud." The judge looks at the lawyer. "Counsel?" The lawyer's face flushes. I was provided these by the petitioner. I assumed." "You assumed wrong." The judge takes the folder and flips through it. Ms. Corral, do you have any legitimate evidence? Irina stands. Your Honor, my father has been acting erratically since my brother's wedding. He disrupted the ceremony, made false accusations, and has been harassing my family. Do you have proof of harassment? He showed up at my sister-in-law's work event uninvited. I clear my throat. Your Honor, that work event was at a construction site I previously inspected and still have legal access to. I was conducting a safety check, which is part of my job. I have documentation. The judge looks at me. Do you have it with you? Yes, Your Honor. I hand over the inspection report, the access authorization, and the security guard's incident statement confirming I was there on official business. The judge reads everything, then sets it aside. Ms. Corral, your petition is thin. The photos are fraudulent, the accusations are unsupported, and Mr. Corral has provided compelling evidence that he is cognitively sound and financially stable. Irina's lawyer tries to recover. Your Honor, we request a postponement to gather additional evidence. Denied. I'm dismissing this petition. Mr. Corral, you're free to go. Thank you, Your Honor. As I gather my papers, Irina leans across the railing. This doesn't change anything. It changes everything, I say. You just lost in open court. That's public record. Outside, Dan is waiting. He grabs my arm. You'll give us the keys anyway. No, I won't. He pulls out his phone and shows me a photo. It's my apartment, specifically the bathroom. Specifically the wall I rebuilt 15 years ago after a pipe burst. See that support beam? Dan says. It's not to code. You did the work yourself without a permit. If the city finds out, your deed is void. My chest tightens. He's right. I cut corners back then, young and broke, and desperate to fix the damage before the leak spread. Who told you? Does it matter? We know, and unless you sign the apartment over to us, we'll report it. I look at Alina, standing behind him. She won't meet my eyes. Get out of my way, I say. Dan doesn't move. We're not done. Yes, you are. I walk past him. My hands are shaking, not from fear, from calculation. They found my weak point. Now I need to eliminate it. I spend Tuesday afternoon at the city archives. The clerk brings me the building file for my apartment complex. Inside are the original blueprints, the occupancy permits, and every renovation request filed in the last 30 years. My illegal repair isn't documented, which means if I report it now and pay the fine, I can get it regularized before anyone else uses it against me. I fill out the forms. I sketch the as-built condition. I pay the expedited processing fee and request an inspection for Thursday. The clerk stamps everything and hands me a receipt. Inspector will call tomorrow to schedule. Thank you. By evening, I filed an amendment to my life estate deed, noting the pending code correction. My lawyer reviews it and files it with the housing trust. The chain is closed. Wednesday morning, Irina calls. You think you're clever, she says. I think I'm thorough. We still have leverage. No, you don't. I reported the renovation myself. The city's inspecting it Thursday. By Friday, it's legal. Silence on the line. Then, you can't win. I already have. She hangs up. That night, I meet Serhii and Hanat at the ghost train bay. We spread blueprints of Seabird Park across the workbench. Season openers Saturday, Hanat says. Crowd'll be 5,000, maybe more. Every ride running, every light on. Perfect, I say. Serhii looks at me. What are you planning? A public demonstration. I'm going to force them all onto my ground, in front of witnesses, and make them confess. How? By giving them one last chance to steal from me, and then taking everything away when they try. I point to the midway. Here's where Dan goes. Funhouse. Narrow corridors, mirrors, dead ends. He'll chase me and lose. I point to the coaster. Irina goes here. Catwalk. High ground. Nowhere to run. I'll pin her and break her story. I point to the PA booth. Roman's confessions play on speakers. The whole park hears him. I point to the stage near the Ferris wheel. Alina faces Serhii, Liv, in front of everyone. Hanat whistles. You're insane. I'm surgical. Serhii nods slowly. What do you need from me? Your voice, your truth, and your willingness to forgive her publicly, because that's what will destroy her. I can do that. Shnat taps the blueprints. I can give you breaker access, PA override, and keys to every building, but you need to move fast. Security will shut you down in 10 minutes. 10 minutes is enough. Thursday, the city inspector signs off on my repair. I pay a $200 fine and receive a corrected occupancy certificate. I file it with the trust that afternoon. Friday, I send 4 texts. To Dan. Let's settle this. Seabird Park, Saturday night, opening night, come alone. To Irina. You want the apartment? Meet me at Seabird Park, Saturday, 8 p.m. Bring your phone. To Roman. Final offer. Seabird Park, tomorrow. I'll make it worth your time. To Alina. Serhii wants to see you. Seabird Park, Saturday evening. Please come. By midnight, all 4 have replied yes. Saturday breaks clear and cold. By 5 p.m., Seabird Park is packed. Kids scream on the tilt-a-whirl. Couples line up for the Ferris wheel. The smell of fried dough and seawater fills the air. I arrive at 6, dressed in jeans and a jacket, and meet Shnat in the employees-only shed behind the arcade. Breakers are labeled, he says, handing me a map. Red tags are yours. Flip them, and you'll get 30-second blackouts in sections A, C, and E. Green tags are emergency only. Don't touch those. Understood. PA booth is unlocked. Plug this into the aux port. He gives me a small adapter. Your phone feeds directly to the speakers. Test it first. I will. Serhii arrives at 7. He looks nervous but steady. Are you ready? I ask. As I'll ever be. At 7:45, Roman shows up. I watch him from the catwalk above the coaster. He scans the crowd, checks his phone, and heads toward the funhouse. Dan arrives at 7:50, alone, hands in his pockets. Irina at 7:55, filming everything. Alina at 8, pale and tense, clutching her bag. They're all here. I text Nat, go. The lights on the midway flicker. Once, twice, then steady. It's subtle, just enough to make people look up. I descend from the catwalk and walk into the funhouse. The funhouse is a maze of mirrors and black-painted corridors. Strobe lights flash. Recorded laughter echoes from hidden speakers. I know every turn, every false wall, every dead end. Dan's footsteps follow me. He's calling my name, but the sound bounces and distorts. Alex, where are you? I duck through a side passage and circle behind him. He's standing in the mirror gallery, spinning, disoriented. This is ridiculous, he shouts. Just talk to me. I step out of the shadows. I tried to talk. You tried to steal. He spins. You're the thief. You sold what wasn't yours to sell. It was always mine. He lunges. I sidestep and shove him into a mirrored panel. It doesn't break, but he hits hard and stumbles. I pull a zip tie from my pocket and loop it around his wrist as he falls, hooking him to the handrail bolted to the wall. Security, he screams. They're coming. In about 8 minutes. I leave him there and head for the PA booth. Chnat is waiting. I plug my phone into the adapter and cue the audio file. Roman's voice from the recorded consultation, distorted but clear. Just backdate the letters. Make it look like the transfer was always planned. Judges don't check timestamps. I hit play. Roman's voice booms across the midway. People stop. Look around. Confused. Who forges estate documents? The voice repeats, fragments looping. I see Roman below, near the games booths. His face goes white. He runs toward the PA booth. I'm already gone, heading for the coaster. The catwalk above the Thunderbolt coaster is narrow and slick with mist from the evening rain. Alina is climbing the access ladder when I reach the top. She sees me and freezes. Don't, I say. Don't what? You can't keep me here. I'm not keeping you. I'm just showing you the view. I walk to the rail and look down. The coaster trains rattle below, full of screaming riders. Alina edges closer. What do you want? The truth. You planned this. Not Alina, not Dan, you. That's insane. Roman already told me. After I pulled him back from falling off the roof last week, he owed me honesty. He said you orchestrated everything. The slap, the petition, the fake photos. You set them all up. Her face hardens. So what? You're a bitter old man squatting in a home you don't deserve. We needed that apartment. You wanted it. There's a difference. What's the difference? You live alone. We have families, futures, plans. You're just existing. And that's enough. I don't need to justify my existence to you. She pulls out her phone. You can't prove any of this. I already did. Terrace's messages, Roman's confession, the forged photos. It's all filed with the court. Her hand shakes. You're lying. Read the docket yourself. Case dismissed, petition denied, evidence of fraud submitted. She stares at her phone. I can see the moment she realizes I'm telling the truth. Even if that's true, she says slowly, we still have the renovation. No, you don't. I reported it myself. It's legal now. The light in her eyes dims. Then what do you want? For you to stop. Sign a waiver. Renounce any claim. Walk away. And if I don't? Then every piece of evidence I have goes to the police. Fraud, forgery, harassment, attempted extortion. You'll spend the next year in courtrooms. She looks at the coaster below, then back at me. You'd really do that to your own daughter. You'd really steal from your own father. Silence stretches between us. Finally, she nods. Where's the waiver? Downstairs, with a notary. We descend the catwalk. Halfway down, she stops. Why didn't you just let us have it? It's just an apartment. It's not just an apartment. It's where I rebuilt my life after your mother died. It's every memory I have of her. And you wanted to take it so you could flip it for cash. She doesn't respond. At the base of the coaster, Serhii is waiting with Alina. Alina stands under the stage lights near the Ferris wheel, arms crossed, defiant. A crowd has gathered, drawn by the commotion and the looping PA announcement. Serhii approaches slowly. Alina, I don't want to do this here. You don't have a choice, not anymore. She glances at me, then back at him. What did he tell you? Everything. The contract, the sponsor, the hours you faked, the landlord you slandered when he tried to evict you for non-payment. That's not... It's true. I have the documents. Alex showed me. Her face crumbles. You were supposed to be on my side. I am. That's why I'm doing this. He steps onto the stage and takes the microphone. The crowd quiets. My name is Serhii Mykolaichuk. Many of you know me. I was Alina's foster father for 8 years. I loved her like my own. Alina makes a noise like she's been struck. When I got sick, she left. I don't blame her. She was young, scared, and hungry for a better life. But she didn't just leave. She erased me, pretended I never existed, built her image on a foundation of lies. He pulls out the contract from his jacket and holds it up. This is a sponsorship agreement she signed 3 years ago. It required her to volunteer 40 hours a month for a charity that didn't exist. She faked the hours, faked the photos, faked the impact, and when the company collapsed, she moved to the next one. The crowd murmurs. Phones come out. Someone starts streaming. Alina steps toward the stage. Serhii, please. I forgive you, he says, but you need to stop running. You need to own what you've done and rebuild the right way. She stands there, shaking, tears streaming down her face. The crowd is silent now, watching. I take the mic from Serhii. Alina, Dan, Irina, Roman, I have waivers prepared. Sign them tonight, renounce all claims to my apartment, and this ends. Refuse, and I file everything with the police on Monday. Roman steps forward from the crowd. Where do I sign? I hand him the document. He reads it, pulls a pen from his pocket and signs. Dan is next, still rubbing his wrists from the zip ties. He doesn't look at me when he signs. Irina signs last, her hand trembling. Alina doesn't move. Serhii walks to her and takes her hand. Sign it, Dotsu, let him go. She signs. A notary steps forward from the park staff, someone Hanat arranged, and witnesses, each signature. It's legal. It's done. The crowd begins to disperse. The rides start up again. Music returns to the midway. I stand at the rail overlooking the park, watching the Ferris wheel turn against the night sky. Serhii joins me. Is it over? It's over. Do you feel better? No, but I feel finished. Dan appears at my elbow. His face is red, his voice hoarse. I hope you're happy. I'm not, but I'm keeping my home. He opens his mouth to respond, then closes it. He turns and walks away into the crowd. Irina follows without a word. Alina stays near Serhii, crying quietly. Roman approaches last. You're a hard man, Alex. I'm a man who protects what's his. Fair enough. He offers his hand. I don't take it. He nods and leaves. Hanat appears with a set of keys on a hook. You left these in the PA booth. I take them and walk to the midway. Above the game booths, there's a steel hook used for hanging banners. I loop the keyring onto it and let it dangle there, glinting under the lights. People pass below, kids shouting, couples laughing, the whole park alive with sound and motion. Nobody notices the keys swaying in the wind. I step back and watch them for a moment. Then I turn and walk toward the exit. Behind me, the coaster roars. The Ferris wheel climbs. The midway blazes. For once, nobody asks me for anything.